Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Barbara and this is Barbara Talks Some More. This is my second channel, so be sure to subscribe to this channel as well as my original channel called Barbara Talks. Okay, so over there I go over anything to do with astrology, the metaphysical world. I like to go live over there as well. Over here I have been primarily doing public figure natal chart readings, synastry readings, and honestly whatever else comes through to talk about. Okay, so that is pretty much this channel. Always feel free to let me know in the comments below, you guys, who you guys would like me to read next. Today I am taking a subscriber request. We're going to be looking at Lana Del Rey's natal chart, okay? Sometimes I have to hook into the person's energy, okay, in order to do these readings with Lana. I'm very familiar actually with her energy, okay? I actually really like her as an artist as well. I don't know too much about her like whole history, right, in terms of her upbringing. I never really did too much research on her. So today I will be doing the reading in terms of what I'm hooking into when it comes to her energy, okay? So everything that comes through in these readings is alleged, okay? It is mainly for educational purposes only, okay, so you guys can learn more about astrology and the whole metaphysical world as well. Sometimes if you guys have certain, aspects that I mentioned, whether it's synastry, whether it is, in the natal chart, doesn't always have to play out that way, okay, for you guys in your dynamics. You really have to look at the whole natal chart as a whole, right? And personally, I am more so intuitive leaning, so I'm actually hooking into the energies first, and then I'm actually looking for that in the chart. And sometimes just the way that the energies align in the chart is connecting me to different things. That being said, my disclaimer always is I am not a psychologist, and this is always based on my own interpretation of the energies, okay? So let's go ahead and jump into it, looking at Lana Del Rey's energy here and her natal chart, right? Already I've been hooking into some things, so I'm going to tell you guys everything that I've been hooking into, okay? I'll give you guys her birth information right off the bat here. It's June 21st, 1985, born at 4:47 p.m., okay? She's born in New York, okay? When I see people born in these like big cities, right, New York or LA, usually I kind of feel like the family was maybe interested in something to do with like this realm, which is interesting because then I went to Google this because I was genuinely curious, because for her parents I was like, did they want to be artists? But online it says they didn't, but maybe it was like a hidden desire line or something of that sort. So some things that I've been picking up on before I even get into the astrological aspect of things here, okay? Just when I look at Lana's photo, right, I really get a vibe, okay? She's really into like nostalgia, which is very Cancer, okay? That's very Cancer energy. But there's something about her like energy that connects me to Amy Winehouse, which I should do a reading on Amy Winehouse as well, okay? So mental note for myself when I am re-listening and editing this video later, which by the way, I also like to tell you guys the date of when I record these. Sometimes I edit it quickly, sometimes it's a little bit later down the line. Today is August 12th, okay, when I am looking at Lana's energy, okay? So there's a vibe here connected to her. She kind of reminds me a little bit of Amy Winehouse, right? There's something going on here in terms of her energy field. Now I'm curious to know what's going on with Amy Winehouse's natal chart, right, and the connection between these two. But really with Lana, there's this whole theme of like nostalgia, which is big time connected to Cancer energy, right? There's something about her even look and her vibe. Again, I'm just looking at her photo here, okay, where I do feel like she's coming actually from a past life, right, where maybe she was even born in like the 1920s, like that kind of era, where I do feel like she wasn't able to fully fulfill this dream, okay? I do feel like in that previous lifetime, again, this is more so psychically what I'm hooking into, I do feel like in that previous lifetime she could have given up her dreams to be a homemaker, right? Because a lot of these photos that I'm seeing here, obviously not all of them, but a lot of them kind of have the vibe of just like those like traditional wife types of dresses and so on and so forth. So it's almost like she's coming directly from a previous lifetime into this lifetime, okay, connected to, again, completing this dream probably that she had on a soul level that she wasn't able to fully accomplish, okay? So getting into the astrological aspect of things here, I have her here as a sun in Cancer, 8th house, moon is in Leo, 9th house, Mercury is in Cancer, 8th house. She also has Mars in Cancer in the 8th house, Scorpio or rising, okay? So one thing that I was even telling you guys in my head before I even started this reading was you're always going to see people in the public eye with Scorpio somewhere, okay, in their natal chart, whether it's Scorpio, whether it's Pluto, whether it is a house or anything after Scorpio onwards, okay? These people are always going to be involved in the occult in one way, shape, or form, okay? Obviously gotta say allegedly, right? But everything is alleged in this reading today, okay? So, that's kind of what's going on there. And, this is why it's good to even like look at these people, right? Or just like learn about them, right? Because then you also get more information in terms of the occult, right? So right off the bat, she is a Scorpio rising. Now, a lot of the time you will see Scorpio risings in, like model types of roles, right? Or even acting sometimes, right? Because their midheaven, a lot of the time depends, right? I'm looking at the Placidus tropical system, by the way, okay? Their midheaven is going to be in Leo, right? So the energy that they portray outward, the public energy is going to be Leo in terms of, again, creativity, wanting to be seen. She is is a Leo moon, right? You see this a lot of the time in people also who want to be seen, of course, creatively, okay? The other thing that I hooked into in terms of her energy, by the way, you guys, I look up to 10 degrees of an orb. I know some people are hardcore and they only look at the tight orbs. If I'm feeling it in the chart, I am counting it, okay? That's kind of how, again, I approach this. And honestly, sometimes I even open it up to 15 if I am hooking into the energy. I know some people are hardcore, they're a little bit more technical, but I do everything more so intuitive based because I'm actually hooking into the energy first, okay? The other thing that I went straight to actually when I opened up her chart was this Leo Scorpio square. This is something recently that I've been talking about a lot. Something that I've noticed too is when people have a Leo Scorpio square, there's always something going on here around children, okay? So it's her rising sign that is in Scorpio. It's squaring her moon, and not just this, okay? Again, if it's a little bit wider, her moon in Leo will be squaring her Saturn in Scorpio as well, okay? So there's basically something going on here around children. Absolutely, it's always connected to the inner child, right? That's usually what children represent anyways, okay? Within people's lives, it's always connecting back to their inner child. Now, what I find interesting here is, when I Googled it, because I was curious to know, does she have any kids or like what's going on with that? She basically said, again, this is just based off of a quick Google search. And again, paraphrasing here, right? Google basically found information. You can look at it that way as well. Because the way the Google search kind of is now is like they're kind of trying to make it like ChatGPT. Anyways, basically what it had said was that she said that she's like open to motherhood when the time is right. So for her, in her case, her birth information got a AA, okay, rating. So excellent. Which anytime I see something like random like this, like 447, something that's not rounded, I usually feel like that is pretty accurate for the individual. Doesn't mean you can't have a rounded time, okay? It's not that. It's just sometimes, I am always speculating, right? Sometimes if the time is rounded, right? Let's say it's like 4 p.m., 4:30 or whatever, something of that sort, it always brings up the question for me at least where it's like, okay, did they just round the time? Did they just kind of like write down, the information when they remembered, these types of things. That's why I feel like sometimes whole signs resonates for some people versus Placidus versus Vedic, right? Because it's the timing, right? Depends, right? When the nurse or whoever was there in the hospital room, when did they actually write down the birth time? Anyways, that's just a side note. So when I see something like 447, I'm like, okay, this is probably more accurate. With that being said, again, okay, just a disclaimer, right? If you have, a rounded time, you could have literally been born at that time, right? It's just something that, I always kind of like notice and pay attention to. So anyways, actually the first thing that I noticed here, first of all, she got a bunch of squares going on, okay? So there's a lot of things going on in her chart. So it's interesting when someone has a lot of squares taking place in their chart. She basically has a T-square actually going on in her chart. She also has a grand cross, right? So a bunch of squares going on in her chart. Usually these people, again, more challenging lives, but this energy is also pushing them, right, toward basically never being comfortable, right? Usually when people have some sort of either like desire line, strong desire line, strong purpose, the universe isn't really going to allow them to be comfortable for too long, okay? I'm going to do a separate video on just that topic, okay? And then I'll be posting that for you guys over here as well, right? So be sure to subscribe. So that's kind of what's going on with this energy, right? She is definitely someone that the universe kind of was like, okay, you came in to this lifetime, right? Strong desire line from a past life. I feel like, especially when I see all this retrograde, she got Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto retrograde. To me, a lot of the time, this is the energy of like directly connected to a past life, right? To me, I call this a retrograde stellium. I'm not sure if those terms exist out there. This is just how I look at the energy, okay? I don't count North Node, South Node retrograde in this retrograde stellium, by the way, because usually North Node, South Node are retrograde for pretty much everybody. Of course, so many people in the world, and there's the internet as well, right? Some people are going to come through and be like, they don't have retrograde North Node, South Node. I haven't seen a chart yet that doesn't have North Node, South Node, or retrograde, okay? Again, because there's so many people in the world doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So the way that I interpret these energies is North Node, South Node, or retrograde are operating kind of how a non-retrograde planet would operate, right? So let's say the person has it not retrograde, it would kind of be like the retrograde planet. I hope that makes sense. If it's confusing you guys, just leave it behind, okay? Anyway, so I don't count the North Node, South Node, retrograde, and the stellium. I'm just looking at the placements here. So again, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto all retrograde. And look at this. This is what I wanted to tell you guys as well. This is such an interesting, you can look at it even as case study here, right? She's a 3-day number. So her day number in numerology is 3, 5 life paths. So 5 life path people tend to be attractive, right? So another energy that pushes the person to basically go out there and interact with people. These people could absolutely be interested in, again, modeling, acting, anything of that sort, or just someone who's super charismatic out there interacting with the world. It's not really an energy that's meant to be like hidden away in a corner somewhere, crunching numbers all day. They could if they were pursuing, their dream on the side, right? Like absolutely that could play out, okay? But it's not an energy that's meant to be hidden away. Also, that life path is all about change. It's all about, transformation. To me, the 5 kind of feels like Leo and Sagittarius combined. Now, it doesn't mean this in numerology. Once again, this is how it feels to me energetically, right? It's kind of like, again, Leo wanting to be seen. It also deals with travel, movement, moving around, which is Sag to me, right? And, really exploring. Usually these are people who are here to explore. Now, the 3-day number stands out to me, okay? Because again, these numbers don't always mean the same things in numerology as they do in astrology in terms of like the houses, but the 3-day number is actually the number of like the written or the spoken word, okay? Which again kind of feels like a Gemini energy to me, right? So someone who is here to open up their throat chakra, speak and communicate. So then that takes me to her Jupiter in the third house, which is a retrograde. Because it's in the third house retrograde, again, it's connecting me to past life, coming back to do it again, the throat chakra, opening up that throat chakra, speaking and communicating. So again, the desire line here with Lana was very, very strong, okay? And even her look, again, even when I see like how she looks, she literally looks like somebody from the past, right? She looks like one of those, like, you can even look at it as just like timeless, looks, for example, even, especially when she's got her black and white photos going on, right? You wouldn't know whether it's in this current time or whether it's in a past life, especially this one black and white photo that I'm seeing here of her. She's got like this bow in her hair. She's got the one strand and it's in black and white, okay? If it pops up again when I'm editing this video, I'll post it in here so you guys can see it as well. Just looking at this photo, it's connecting me to a little girl in, again, back in the day, 1920s. I keep picking up on like 1920s, like that time frame, right? A lot of dreams, a lot of, hopes and wishes, right? To basically, again, want to be seen in this way. And I feel like it was unfulfilled for her. And then she reincarnates in this lifetime again. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Saturn is in the first house for her, okay? And a retrograde. So Saturn retrograde is usually an absence of a father figure early on in life, mental, emotional, or physical absence. That doesn't mean that the father, would be physically absent, although it could, right? It's just some form of absence connected to the father. So the person now struggles with their own internal masculine energy within, right? Boundaries, perseverance, like all of these energies within the person. She does have Sun opposing Neptune. I see, this energy sometimes connected to like the Saturn retrograde in someone's charts, okay? Obviously, not everybody, right? I haven't seen everyone's chart in the world to be like, this is a pattern, but I've seen this quite a bit where if someone has Saturn retrograde, they might have the Sun in the 12th house, or they might have Sun Neptune aspects, again, contributing to the fact that the father was evasive, elusive. You didn't see him. You didn't really feel him, right? Energetically, especially like in terms of the home and the upbringing. Now, because she does have Sun in Cancer and it's in the 8th house, there's a lot of hidden truths here connected to the father as well. Okay, Sun in Cancer sometimes can be, someone who dealt with alcoholism, especially because it's in the 8th house too, like in terms of the father figure, right? There could be something going on here with the father, whether it's out there or not in terms of like, the news. Maybe this isn't something that she really talked about because it is in the 8th house. She got a lot of 8th house energies going on here, right? Sun, Mercury, and Mars, even Mars in Cancer in the 8th house. So masculines in her life, right? Something to pay attention to when you have Mars in Cancer and it's in the 8th house. Again, this is a quote unquote alcoholic Mars, right? So either the person can become an alcoholic, which obviously isn't her. Usually, typically it's going to be in the man's chart where it might play out this way. Or if it's a woman who's into men, she could either be attracted to alcoholic types of men, right? Or just addiction, especially because it's in the 8th house as well, right? And it's interesting because it's in the Sun too. So this is even supporting, again, this theory allegedly that I have that probably the father, was again absent in this way. Maybe he had some sort of addiction now because it's in the 8th house. It could have been hidden from her. When I see 8th house placements, again, Sun in the 8th house, sometimes even Sun in Scorpio too, okay? To me, the way that I see this energy is even the moon, okay? Because the moon can be the mother. To me, this energy pretty much is, there's something hidden here about this parent that maybe you don't find out until later on, right? So it's like you're basically experiencing them in one way and you could be feeling something because again it's a house. That's usually how the person becomes super intuitive, okay? You're feeling this about this individual, right? But then you might not have proof for it, right? Or again, for some people, they might experience gaslighting. That's sometimes how the psychic gifts and abilities come online for some individuals. But then it's almost like this theory gets confirmed later on in life. You discover something or something of that sort, I guess, when the time is right. You can look at it that way as well. So it's interesting to me because now she's with this Jeremy guy. Okay, I had to look that up because, there were some rumors floating around that he was married when, the two of them got together. But basically, again, as per my Google search, so maybe there's other information out there. But here it says that he basically wasn't married, that he was engaged to his ex-fiance. I saw somewhere for about 12 years, okay? And then, it ended. And then after that, he reconnected with Lana, okay? Ladies, honestly, if you are engaged with someone for that long, you might as well just save yourself the time and just break it off, okay? Usually people know right away whether they want to be with you long term or not. 12 years is wild, okay? To basically have that much time wasted. But anyways, now she is with this individual. Now, what's interesting as well, what I'm seeing here is that she was born actually on a new moon, okay? So this is interesting to me because usually when people are born on a new moon, they incarnate into this lifetime, you know, either to start a new cycle or even like with this like level of optimism. Okay. So even though a lot of her songs are pretty emo, okay, they're definitely Cancerian and eighth house types of songs, which is so interesting because I know a lot of Gen Z now, because like Lana's been out for a while, but I can see a lot of Gen Z is super into Lana, and I'm like, are you guys okay? Like, is everything okay? Because her music is literally so emo and sometimes so sad, but also of course so emotional. So it's really interesting to me. But you know what I really like about her music again is like these like short films almost that she creates. Yes, it's a music video, but it always has this nostalgic vibe connected to it, which again connects me to this Cancer energy, which again connects me to her previous lifetime and her past life, right? So again, all this retrograde energy reincarnating again. That was what I wanted to say about the Saturn in the first house. What's interesting about Saturn in the first house is usually, okay, these people in a past life would have crossed out sometimes, okay, at their own hand, okay, so then they kind of get looped back in or right away into the next lifetime, okay, and the karmic responsibility when you have Saturn in the first is basically to try to make it past your first Saturn return, which congratulations, she did this, okay, but it's retrograde as well. So I wouldn't be surprised, again, I'm seeing this photo, when I see this photo, right, the black and white one, you know, it's really connecting me to a previous lifetime where again, you know, maybe she ended up in the situation where she was unhappy. Again, I keep getting in that 1920s time frame, right? You know, she could have been, again, you know, that typical traditional wife. And who knows, maybe she crossed out young. Maybe in that past life, something could have taken place here where she quote unquote crossed out at her own hand, right? I am actually seeing pills in that previous lifetime, and it's like due to like unhappiness, okay? In that past life, it's really interesting that I'm psychically hooking into this, okay? So there's something going on here, right? In a previous lifetime where, again, she kind of felt stuck. She felt trapped. Again, it was probably like a traditional type of marriage situation, right? And again, she probably wanted to do something else, okay? Because again, this photo, I just keep seeing it as like a little girl. She's not a little girl in this photo, obviously, right? But it's just like, because it's in black and white, just like the imagery of it, she's got the bow going on in her hair. I'm just seeing it as this like little girl, right, who had all these dreams in a previous lifetime, and then maybe she even got married off super young. It could be like the symbolism of it, okay, of it all. So that's really interesting, okay? That she got Saturn in the first house, and it's a retrograde. So again, it's a karmic responsibility. And the other thing with retrograde energy too that's coming through to mention, I'm actually hooking into this for the first time, so you guys are getting insider information, is that sometimes with the retrograde energy, you are not meant to repeat that same mistake again, okay? Because on that soul level, the way that I explain retrograde energy, or at least the way that it feels to me, is the person sometimes feels super frustrated because they keep trying to do something that like sometimes they even have the resistance to do that particular thing, is really what it is. Sometimes when someone's procrastinating or avoiding their purpose, they'll do everything else but the thing they want to do, right? So when you have the retrograde in your charts, just like more so again psychically as I hook into this energy, it's almost like this like karmic responsibility on the soul level where it's like you keep running away from this. You actually are meant to clear this, so you can clear this retrograde energy out of your chart. The more that you have, obviously the more intense that it is, okay? And of course all of these retrograde energies do symbolize different things, but I'm not gonna get into that in today's video. Check out my main channel, Barbara Talks, okay, where I have a video on retrograde energies and what all of that symbolizes. What's interesting to me in her energy field is that she doesn't really seem like someone who was overly like into substances or substance abuse. Now I am having this like memory like ringing, okay, in the background here, where I did see something where like she would use substances, or I'm not sure if maybe she used them or if somebody was just saying this about her, because again, she got all this A house energy in here and all this water. I wouldn't be surprised if she's dabbled into this world, right? But I feel like for her, even if she has dabbled into any of these substances, I feel like it automatically connects her to that past life, right? And this is why there's like this parallel between her and Amy Winehouse, not just like in the physical appearance, it's more so like energetically when I look at them, because both of these individuals are coming from past lives where they weren't able to fully like accomplish this like dream, is really what it is, right? So they're actually carrying over in different ways, of course, right? But they're carrying over like literally the imprint of the soul from that past life, like they're playing it out in this lifetime, right, to actually complete that on that soul level. Now going back to what I was saying about the children, okay, it's really interesting to me. I am curious to see if she's going to end up having children. I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't have children at all. I do feel like this like karmic tie to children, because again, she's got a lot of this energy taking place in her chart. It's the square, okay, that I'm picking up on. And again, you guys, if you have this taking place in your own chart, doesn't mean you won't have kids. You got to look at the whole chart, and sometimes it's transits as well. More so how I'm hooking into the energy, because Saturn is involved here as well, especially again, there's a little bit wider, right? So again, some people might not count it, but I'm hooking into it, so I'm counting it here. The Saturn square the moon restrictions, okay, again, when she was maybe a kid, but it's connecting me to that past life. Like I keep seeing her in this past life again with this photo that I saw of her, right, where she's actually carrying that over from a previous lifetime. It doesn't actually have anything to do with this lifetime. I find like maybe she felt the energy play out that way, right, because it's so imprinted in her energy field from a past life, right, where she could have felt restricted in terms of her own inner child, in terms of the home, in terms of the upbringing, upbringing, right? And then there's the other part of the restriction where it's like on the soul level where she may feel like the children could have restricted her. Like let's say she had them before, right? May have restricted her in terms of accomplishing this dream or this vision that she had. So it's really interesting because it's like I'm literally psychically seeing how much that past life has poured over into this lifetime, even though like maybe the experiences were different. It's because she's seeing things like psychically. This is what I'm seeing, again, allegedly, obviously got to say that, right? But it's like she's like seeing it through that lens of the past life. So interesting that all this information is coming through, because sometimes for some of these celebrities their energy is more so cloaked or like closed off energetically. Okay, so really interesting that that is coming up. And then the other thing that I'm seeing here is her Chiron in Gemini. This is interesting to me. Chiron is in Gemini. Okay, Chiron is in the 7th house. Here's a Chiron moon aspect. Chiron sextiling the moon literally at 0 degrees. Here's that wound connected to the home, right? But again, it's not even from this lifetime. That's what's wild. It's literally carried over from a past life, and because it was in her energetic imprint, right, it may have played out that way in this lifetime, right? But I'm seeing it again connected to this past life, again, this like 1920s type of vibe, right? I find it interesting Chiron is in Gemini here and it's in the 7th house, because Gemini is literally the throat chakra, speaking, communicating, right? So it's almost like she literally was here to also heal the throat chakra, heal speaking, heal communicating. Now, what's interesting with her overall and her energy, like honestly, maybe she's done interviews. Again, I'm not a super fan. Maybe there's been interviews of her, right? But with her, like there's something in her energy field where she's not really someone who is like a talker. You know what I mean? She's more so someone who gives me the vibe more so of like, they'll let their art speak for themselves. Okay, is more so the vibe that I get here. And it's so interesting because back in the day, I heard this from a musician from the 80s. Okay, when I was watching their interview, and they were basically saying how they didn't want to make a music video because they wanted everyone to listen to the song and like visualize it for themselves. And I feel like people who really truly have artistic expression, like that's the approach almost that they have to it, right? They kind of like create it so you can interpret it for yourself, is really what it is. And this works in her favor anyways, because she has Sun opposing Neptune. Again, Neptune is the collective unconscious, right? This is why people, again, you'll see a lot of these public figures having a lot of these generational energies aspecting their personal placements as well, right? Because they're hooking into the collective unconscious, or things that are going to be popular, or things that people feel, but it's like buried or suppressed or hidden or whatever it is, right? And the collective projects at them, right? So there's that part of the story as well. She's got Pluto in that 12th house. This is a struggle always, the Pluto in the 12th house, right? Because there's a lot going on with the unconscious, the subconscious. It's past life connected, past life enemies. Here the past life enemy could be the subconscious, the unconscious. Pluto in the 12th house is very much like a scapegoat type of energy as well. So actually she really overcame this fear of speaking and speaking up, or even this wound, okay, around speaking, or just like using her throat chakra, okay, in terms of music, right? That's very Neptunian, when you kind of find a different outlet for speaking or like maybe expressing yourself. But I do still see within her energy field, again, someone who isn't overly speaking. Like when I say overly speaking, like let's say speaking about certain things, maybe like, societal issues, like these types of things, right? Because again, in this case, because the Pluto's in the 12th, I feel like it's connected to maybe even being taken out in a past life for like speaking too much of the truth. So sometimes these people incarnate and find a different way to pitch their information, more so to be protected on that energy level. Because again, her task in this lifetime also was to overcome the Saturn in the 1st house and make it past that first Saturn return, okay? Because again, there probably would have been a lot of people around her, okay, that were enemies, is really what it is, okay? Another thing that I do want to mention to you in this video, and again, this is of course a legend and my own opinion based on the energies, but she's definitely, yes, into the occult. I already mentioned that, but like I feel like she's into like high level occult type of stuff with all this 8th house energy in here, Scorpio rising, like there's no way like that she isn't, right? Like that's there. Again, I don't want to label anybody anything, right? Again, I don't know these people, but I do feel like this is also carried over knowledge as well, okay? She even has Saturn in Scorpio too. So when I see Scorpio in a chart, okay, especially when it's like in the personal placements or like the rising sign as well, Saturn in Scorpio could be like karmic from the father, or like the father's line, right? It could be where she received this knowledge or information. It is generational, right? So everyone within the subset of the generation is going to have Saturn in Scorpio. What's interesting with Saturn in Scorpio subset of the generation, so this is going to be the people born around like 1985, like in that 3-year bracket. A lot of them actually got restricted in their sexuality, I noticed with them, and a lot of them had to work through like shame, okay, connected to their sexuality as well, or just like their sexual nature, right? Not just sexuality in terms of like what their preferences are, but just like, again, like their own sexual energy within, okay? So that's like a huge thing that this, subset of the generation, they were meant to break free from this, okay? But when I see Scorpio in a chart, usually the way that I see it is, you basically receive this energy in your chart, or even like a house in this case too, okay? Because you accumulated, okay, this occult knowledge and spiritual knowledge. You basically get that energetic head start. you can look at it that way as well, right? In terms of the nature of this plane, right? And of course, then, you know, it's the chicken and the egg, the experiences that you have maybe in the earlier part of your life open you up to this as well. Like she definitely would have mediumship abilities as well. I do feel like she is channeling her healing energy through her music, of course. Okay, so that's taking place there. But what I wanted to say is like the Scorpio energy incarnates basically already having this knowledge, but the karma with Scorpio energy, again, these are just my own observations, okay, is that they are meant to basically use this energy either for good or for transmutation of energy versus like doing spells where it's going to infringe on another person's free will. So again, people have Scorpio in their chart or even a house, okay, they incarnate already with this knowledge because in past lives, right, they may have used this energy either in like a shadow sense or again, you know, like low level types of magic situations, right? So it's like they're kind of coming through to rectify basically this energy and kind of get to that Phoenix rising state of the Scorpionic energy, okay, which I do feel like she is more so in that state, okay, but I'm kind of, again, as educational purposes only, right, I'm giving you guys information in terms of what happens when someone has Scorpio in their chart from my own observations and where it comes from. And it's interesting because as I'm saying that, I'm seeing her South Node is literally in Scorpio, literally confirming this even more, and it's in the first house. So she always had this occult knowledge. Psychic even, again, this photo that I saw of her that's in black and white, I'm even seeing her as like a little girl, like, you know, finding like big spell books, right, like almost like in an attic or something of that sort. This is in the past life, the 1920s past life, by the way, right? So she's coming from that previous lifetime, okay? She's already coming with this information and this knowledge, and because her North Node is in Taurus and it's in the 7th house, here to ground this, okay, here to basically ground this information and this occult knowledge basically so she could materialize it, which of course, you know, at this point in time she has, right? Of course, there's always so much more to say, okay, but at this point in time, this is my first impression here in terms of what I'm hooking into in terms of Lana Del Rey's energy field. I hope you guys enjoyed this reading. If you did, please do like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you guys subscribe to my original channel, Barbara Talks, as well. And also, you guys, if you guys would like your own reading, so natal chart reading, synastry reading, progressed natal chart reading, mini natal chart reading, mini synastry reading, the information for all of that is going to be in the description box below as well. I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day or evening wherever you are. Bye.